Ladies and gentlemen, we all grow up being taught that kindness is a virtue, that being friendly, warm, and open-hearted will make the world a better place, and in theory, that's true. But here's the uncomfortable truth: no one teaches you until life does it, for you being friendly doesn't guarantee loyalty. In fact, sometimes the friendlier you are, the more invisible you become. You think you're building bridges, but you're actually digging a hole where your self-worth goes to die, slowly and silently. It starts with good intentions. You're the one who's always there, always listening, always giving the benefit of the doubt. You answer the late night calls, you lend the money, you show up for their celebrations, their breakdowns, their dramas. You cancel your own plans to make time. You forgive things that hurt you because you'd rather keep the peace than protect yourself. You think that's what loyalty looks like. That's what being a real one means. But the truth, the people you're doing all of this for, most of them don't see your loyalty. They see your availability, and worse, they mistake that availability for neediness. Your friendliness is no longer viewed as a strength. It becomes an expectation, a default setting. You go from being someone who's appreciated to someone who's used. You think your kindness will earn their respect, but they grow comfortable with your silence. They get addicted to your patience. They test the limits of your love, and one day you realize you've become the person they call when no one else picks up. The emotional backup plan, the reliable one who never asks for anything back, the one they say they love but never truly choose, and then something worse happens. They leave, or they switch up. They stop calling. They stop replying, and you're left wondering what you did wrong when all you ever did was care too much, too often, for too many who didn't care enough in return. That's when it hits you, the brutal lesson. Just because you're loyal to someone doesn't mean they're loyal to you. Just because you're friendly doesn't mean they value you. They value the convenience you offer, the comfort you provide, the way you never make it about yourself. They don't see you as loyal, they see you as safe. And in a world addicted to chaos, safe often means forgettable. And here's the catch: it's not their fault, it's yours. You taught them how to treat you. You showed them that your time was free, your energy unlimited, your forgiveness automatic. You made it too easy. You tried to buy loyalty with friendliness, and that's a deal that always ends in debt. Loyalty isn't earned through constant kindness. Loyalty is built on mutual respect, on shared struggle, on equal investment. It's knowing that someone would do for you what you would do for them, not just once, but every time. It's not about how friendly you are when things are good. It's about who's still standing beside you when things get ugly, and not just when they need you, but when you need them. So the next time you find yourself giving endlessly, pouring out your heart, fixing people who wouldn't pick up a piece if you shattered, pause. Ask yourself, is this friendship, or is this dependency disguised as loyalty? Am I respected here, or just tolerated? Do they show up for me the way I show up for them? Because when you stop being so friendly to everyone, you don't become cold, you become clear, and in that clarity, you begin to attract people who respect your space, your time, your energy, because you respect it first. The world doesn't need more people who say yes to everyone. It needs more people who say yes to themselves. So stop thinking friendliness guarantees loyalty. It doesn't. It guarantees access. And access, when given freely, always comes at a cost. Protect your worth. Not everyone deserves your smile. There's a dangerous myth people carry around that saying yes all the time makes you a good person, that being there for everyone, no matter what, means you're strong. That giving without limits is a noble act of love. But the truth is far more sobering. If you don't set boundaries, you will be broken, not by your enemies, but by the very people you thought were closest to you. Not out of malice, but because you train them to treat you like you don't matter. It starts quietly. You say yes when you're tired. You help when you don't have the time. You agree when you disagree. You absorb the guilt, the blame, the weight of everyone else's problems, just to keep the peace, to be liked, to avoid confrontation. And on the surface, it feels like you're doing the right thing, you're being nice, you're being helpful, you're being what the world calls a good friend. But inside, something starts to rot. You feel yourself getting smaller. You feel your needs being erased. You feel your time slipping away in service of people who don't even say thank you. And it dawns on you, slowly, painfully, that the more you give, the more they expect. The more you bend, the less they notice the effort. The more you say yes, the less your yes even means. That's what happens when you live without boundaries. You become everyone's emotional doormat, their support system, their therapist, their problem solver, and yet no one checks if you are okay. People start assuming you'll always be there, that you don't get tired. That your kindness is endless, but you're not endless. You're not made of steel. You're a human being with limits, and when you ignore those limits for too long, life doesn't applaud you, it burns you out. Let's make one thing clear. Boundaries are not barriers. Boundaries are not walls that shut people out. They are filters that protect what's sacred inside you. Your peace, your time, your energy, your mental health. Boundaries don't make you selfish. They make you safe. They don't mean you don't care. They mean you care about yourself enough to not be destroyed in the process of caring for others. People might not like it when you start setting boundaries. They'll call you changed, distant, selfish, but those words come from those who benefited from your lack of limits, and that's your first sign that you're finally doing something right, because the people who genuinely love and respect you will not be threatened by your boundaries. They'll honor them. They'll understand that your no isn't rejection, it's self-respect, that your silence doesn't mean withdrawal, it means preservation. You don't owe anyone unlimited access to your life. Not family, not friends, not partners. Your time is a currency, and the way you spend it reveals what you value. If you spend it recklessly, on people who drain you, disrespect you, or only come around when they need something, then what you're telling the world is, I don't value myself. And if you don't value yourself, why should anyone else? Start saying no without guilt. Start declining invitations that don't serve your peace. Stop explaining your choices to people who never explained how their actions hurt you. Walk away from conversations that make you feel small. Protect your emotional space like your life depends on it, because in many ways it does. The version of you that thrives, that dreams, that creates, that heals, can only exist when it's not being constantly sacrificed to please others. You teach people how to treat you by what you allow, what you stop, and what you reinforce. And if people are walking all over you, it's not because they're monsters, it's because you left the door wide open. Lock it, guard it, not out of fear, but out of love for yourself. So the next time you feel that familiar pressure to say yes when everything in your body is screaming no, pause. Ask yourself, is this kindness, or is this self-abandonment dressed up as generosity? There's a difference. And the people who truly matter will never ask you to cross that line. Boundaries don't push people away, they pull the right people closer. And the moment you begin to honor them, you stop being the background character in everyone else's life and start becoming the main character in your own. One of the hardest lessons in life is realizing that not everyone who smiles at you is a friend, not everyone who checks in on you cares, and not everyone who walks into your life is meant to stay. You see, the truth is simple but difficult to accept. Not everyone deserves access to you. Your time, your energy, your thoughts, your emotions, they are valuable, but the more freely you give them to people who haven't earned them, the more you lose pieces of yourself in the process. We live in a world where being available has become a sign of being good-hearted. We think that responding quickly, always picking up calls, always saying yes, always opening the door no matter how many times it's slammed in our face is somehow a badge of honor. But that's not kindness. That's self-abandonment. That's you giving VIP access to people who should have never gotten past the front gate. You can be open, warm, welcoming, and still selective. You can be kind without being accessible to everyone. And if you don't learn this distinction, you'll end up surrounded by people who love the version of you that serves them, benefits them, validates them, but they won't know or care about the version of you that's tired, confused, or broken. Because they're not really there for you, they're there for what you give. Start paying attention. Look at who only shows up when they need something, who disappears when you need them. who drains you instead of pouring into you. That's the reality of giving people too much access. It teaches them to expect it, to feel entitled to it, to stop appreciating it altogether. You become background noise in your own life, always showing up for others while no one shows up for you. Ask yourself this: why do you let people in so easily? Is it fear of being alone, fear of seeming cold, fear of not being liked? Because here's the thing, being liked is not the same as being respected. And sometimes the more you try to be liked, the more people feel like they can treat you however they want. The more accessible you are, the less they feel the need to protect your presence. You have to become comfortable with the idea that not everyone should get to know the real you. Some people should only know your name and nothing more, not because you're bitter, not because you think you're better, but because you've learned what costs peace, what costs sleep, what costs self-worth, and you've finally realized that your life is not a public park. It's a private space, and entry is earned, not given. It's okay to limit who gets your energy. You are not rude for protecting your time. You are not arrogant for saying no. You are not cold for not answering every message, not attending every gathering, not giving every piece of yourself to people who wouldn't know what to do with it if they had it. The people who matter won't need constant access to feel close to you. They'll understand that your time is precious, your energy is sacred, and your peace is non-negotiable. They won't be offended when you draw the line. They'll be grateful you trust them enough to set it. Because access without boundaries is not connection, it's chaos. So stop keeping your door wide open. Not everyone is meant to come inside. Some are just meant to knock and walk away. Some are meant to pass by. Some are meant to teach you the power of saying this far and no further. And when you start filtering access, you'll notice something powerful. The noise will fade, the wrong people will fall away, and what's left will be quieter but truer. Protect your space like your peace depends on it, because it does. You are not obligated to be everything to everyone. You are not a lighthouse for lost people who don't want to be found. You are not a cure for other people's loneliness, damage, or drama. You are a whole world, and not everyone deserves a passport. The sooner you stop giving access to people who haven't earned it, the sooner you start reclaiming the power you forgot you had. Not everyone deserves to sit at your table. And that's not cruelty, that's clarity. Kindness is a strength, but the world doesn't always see it that way. In fact, more often than not, it mistakes it for weakness. People look at a kind person and assume they can be pushed, manipulated, taken for granted. They confuse silence with fear, softness with submission, and compassion with permission. But kindness, real kindness, comes from power, not the lack of it. It takes strength to stay gentle in a world that rewards aggression. It takes courage to be good when being cold would be easier. The problem is, people don't often see what it takes to stay kind. They don't see the self-control it requires to stay calm in the face of rudeness. They don't understand the maturity it takes to choose empathy over revenge. They assume kindness is natural, automatic, even naive, and that assumption becomes dangerous when you start letting the wrong people close. Because when you're kind, people test your limits. They poke, they push, they want to see how far you'll bend before you break. They take your forgiveness for granted. They come back again and again, saying sorry without ever meaning it, because they know you'll give them another chance. They grow comfortable crossing lines you never thought you'd let anyone cross, because you've blurred those lines yourself in the name of kindness. That's where the misreading begins. People don't understand that your kindness isn't a weakness, it's a choice. A very deliberate choice not to become like the people who hurt you, not to let this world turn you hard. But just because you don't fight every battle doesn't mean you're not a warrior. Just because you speak softly doesn't mean your voice is powerless. And just because you let things go doesn't mean you didn't notice, didn't hurt, didn't care. There's a danger in always being the bigger person. Eventually, people forget that you have feelings too. They forget that you bleed, that you cry, that you carry things you never talk about. They forget that kindness is something you give, not something they're entitled to. And once they start seeing your kindness as a given, they stop treating it as a gift. That's when you realize kindness is only powerful when it's paired with boundaries, Without them, it turns into self-erasure, into exhaustion, into quiet suffering. The moment you feel that people expect your kindness instead of appreciating it, something has shifted. You're no longer seen as strong, you're seen as soft, disposable, replaceable, but here's the truth. Asterisk asterisk, you don't need to stop being kind, asterisk asterisk, you need to stop being kind to everyone. Kindness should be intentional, not automatic. Reserved, not reckless. The world will take from you as long as you let it. So you have to start protecting your softness with strength. You have to remind people, gently but firmly, that your kindness has limits. That your silence doesn't mean you accept disrespect. That your compassion doesn't mean you will allow the same hurt again and again. When you begin to speak up, to walk away, to say no, people will be shocked. They're used to the version of you that always says yes, that stays quiet, that makes room, but don't let their surprise make you doubt yourself. Let it confirm that for far too long they saw your kindness as something they could manipulate. Let it be proof that you're finally being seen for who you really are, not someone weak, but someone who refused to let the world harden them, and finally learned how to protect that softness. Kindness is not about saying yes to everything. It's not about letting everyone in. It's about showing up with grace when you could have chosen bitterness. It's about choosing integrity when no one is watching. And yes, it's about knowing when to walk away from people who mistake your goodness for gullibility. So stay kind, but let your kindness be sharp. Let it be aware. Let it be guarded. Be kind, not because people deserve it, but because you do. You deserve to live with a heart that's whole, not heavy. A spirit that's soft, but not broken. A presence that's warm, but never used. Remember this. You can be kind and still walk away. You can be kind and still protect your peace. You can be kind and still be strong enough to never let anyone misuse that kindness again. When you're too friendly, too agreeable, too quick to adapt to the needs of others, something subtle and dangerous begins to happen. You start losing sight of yourself. Not all at once, not dramatically. But slowly, day by day, piece by piece, you begin to shift who you are to match what other people want you to be, and over time, you become less of you and more of a reflection of everything and everyone around you. You say yes when you want to say no. You laugh at jokes that don't feel funny. You go places you don't want to go, hang out with people who drain your energy, agree with opinions you don't actually believe, all because you want to keep things smooth. Keep people happy, keep yourself likable. You start shaping your personality around others' expectations, thinking it's harmless, thinking it's just being nice. But what you're really doing is chipping away at your identity, diluting your truth, silencing your instincts, and the more you do it, the harder it becomes to remember what you actually want, what you love, what makes you feel alive. Your decisions start revolving around how other people will react instead of how you feel. You're no longer living for yourself, you're performing a version of yourself that keeps the world comfortable. You become so skilled at fitting in that you forget how to stand out, and deep down you start to a network error occurred. Please check your connection and try again. If this issue persists, please contact us through our help center at help.openai.com. In a world obsessed with constant connection, we've forgotten the power of space. The truth is, what is always available often goes unnoticed. What is constantly present begins to feel ordinary, and when you're too friendly, too open, too accessible, you risk becoming background noise in people's lives. Because people don't always value what's easy to reach. Sometimes it's distance that creates appreciation. It's your absence that reminds others of your worth. We've been conditioned to believe that being close to everyone is a strength. That being on call, replying instantly, always showing up means we're loyal, dependable, good. But there's a price to constant closeness, invisibility. The more often you're around, the more people stop seeing you. The more available you are, the more your presence gets taken for granted, and before long, the people you constantly prioritize start acting like your time has no weight. This isn't about playing games or being cold. It's about understanding human nature. We all crave what's just a little out of reach. We all pay closer attention to what we might lose. So when you step back, when you create space, when you stop giving yourself away so freely, something powerful happens. People start to notice. They start to realize how much they leaned on you, how much they assumed you'd always be there, how much your silence now says what words never could. Distance teaches people to value your presence. It reveals who actually respects you versus who just used your availability. The ones who truly care will lean in when you step back. The ones who only came around for convenience will drift away, and that's not a loss, that's clarity. Because if your constant nearness was the only thing keeping some people around, then their absence is a gift in disguise. When you're too friendly, too eager to please, you send a subtle message: I need you more than you need me. And whether you mean it or not, people absorb that message. They start to believe they're the prize, and you're the one chasing. But when you stop running, when you sit still in your self-respect, you shift the energy completely. Suddenly, your time feels valuable. Your silence becomes powerful. Your presence becomes a choice, not an expectation. This doesn't mean isolating yourself or becoming distant to prove a point. It means recognizing you're worth enough to not hand it out like a free sample. It means trusting that you don't have to be constantly seen to be remembered, that sometimes the most powerful move you can make is to step back and let your absence do the talking. When you pull back a little, not out of anger, but out of self-worth, you allow space for reflection, for realization. You give others a moment to miss you, to consider your value, to reevaluate the role you play in their lives. And you give yourself the same chance to reflect on who actually deserves your energy, your loyalty, your time. We often fear distance because we think it means losing people. But distance doesn't push the right people away, it filters out the wrong ones. It reveals who shows up when there's nothing to gain. It reveals who reaches out, who cares enough to check in when you're no longer constantly there. And that truth, as uncomfortable as it can be, is essential. You don't need to be everywhere for everyone. You don't need to keep proving your love, your loyalty, your availability. The people who truly